Tonight, America is mourning. We didn't just lose a star, we lost a legend, a piece of history.
The news arrived quietly, almost gently, yet it carried a deep emotional weight. On a calm morning, confirmation began to spread that Nicholas Brendon, a familiar face from a beloved era of television, had passed away. In living rooms across the world, longtime fans paused, trying to process what this moment truly meant. How does one say goodbye to a character who once felt like a friend? For many, the memory begins in the late 1990s. It was a time of after-school television rituals, late-night reruns, and growing attachment to fictional worlds that somehow felt real. Nicholas Brendon stepped into that world with an easy smile and a quiet sincerity. His portrayal of a loyal, often uncertain young man resonated with viewers who saw their own struggles reflected back at them. Friends from early production days later recalled his natural warmth on set. One crew member once shared, "He never acted like he was above anyone. He just wanted everyone to feel comfortable." That simple kindness, though rarely highlighted in headlines, became part of the quiet legacy he built behind the scenes. Yet his journey to recognition was not a straight path. Before fame found him, Brendon worked ordinary jobs and faced the familiar doubts that many young performers know too well. There were auditions that led nowhere, long days filled with uncertainty, and moments when giving up seemed like the easier choice. What kept him going was not ambition alone, but a genuine love for storytelling. As his career unfolded, fans grew attached not only to the character he played, but also to the humanity he carried into public life. Convention halls would fill with laughter when he spoke. He often chose humor as a bridge, using self-awareness to connect with audiences who admired his honesty. A fan once wrote online, "He made us feel seen, like being awkward was not something to hide." But behind the smiles and applause, there were also personal storms. Brendon's life included struggles that were sometimes shared in public view. These moments added complexity to his story, reminding people that actors, like the characters they portray, face real battles. Instead of turning away, many fans leaned closer, offering support and understanding. In one heartfelt social media tribute, a fellow performer reflected, "He showed courage by simply being real. That is not easy in this industry." Such words echoed across digital spaces as messages of remembrance continued to grow. The sense of collective memory began to form, not loud or dramatic but steady and sincere. There were also quieter memories. Late-night charity events. Unscripted conversations with young viewers who found comfort in his work. Autographs signed with personal notes rather than rushed signatures. These small gestures created lasting impressions, forming an invisible thread that tied him to a generation of fans. As time moved forward, Brendon remained closely connected to the community that first embraced him. He often spoke about gratitude, a feeling that seemed to deepen as years passed. In interviews, he described his career not as a personal achievement alone, but as a shared journey. That perspective allowed people to see him not only as an actor, but as a participant in a larger cultural moment. His story also invites reflection on the nature of cult television itself. Certain shows become more than entertainment. They turn into emotional landmarks. Viewers remember where they were when they first watched, who they watched with, and how those stories shaped their understanding of friendship and courage. Through his work, Brendon became part of that lasting emotional landscape. In the hours following the confirmation of his passing, candlelight vigils appeared in unexpected places. Online forums filled with memories that stretched across continents. Someone shared a faded ticket stub from a fan convention years ago. Another posted a photo of a signed poster hanging carefully on a bedroom wall. Each tribute felt like a quiet whisper into a shared past. A close friend later summed up the mood with a simple message. "He brought light into rooms that needed it." Those words carried a gentle truth. They did not attempt to define his entire life, but they captured something essential. A reminder that influence is often measured in feelings rather than achievements. As the day turned to evening, a calm sense of farewell began to settle. There was sadness certainly, but also gratitude. The characters we grow up with never truly disappear. They remain in reruns, in conversations, in the subtle ways they shape how we see ourselves and each other. Nicholas Brendon's journey now becomes part of memory, not frozen, but living within the stories people continue to share. And somewhere, perhaps in the soft glow of a television screen replaying familiar scenes, his presence still offers comfort. The question that lingers is not only how he will be remembered, but how his legacy will continue to inspire those who once found courage in his quiet, loyal smile. The confirmation came without loud headlines at first. In quiet homes and busy streets alike, people began to hear the same words. Chuck Norris had passed away. A long-standing symbol of strength was suddenly gone. How does a world shaped by his presence begin to reflect on his absence? And what memories would rise first for those who grew up watching him stand fearless on screen? In the early hours of that morning, martial arts schools in different cities opened their doors with a heavier silence than usual. Students bowed with deeper respect. Some instructors paused before beginning class, choosing to speak about discipline rather than technique. His influence had always reached far beyond cinema. It lived in daily routines, quiet determination, and the simple act of trying again after failure. Long before fame arrived, his story began in modest surroundings. Childhood was not easy, and uncertainty often felt like a constant companion. Yet he discovered a sense of purpose through training. In the structured rhythm of martial arts he found something steady, a path that offered both control and confidence. That discovery would slowly shape the man the world later came to know. His military service became another defining chapter. Those who served alongside him remembered focus and resilience. One former colleague later shared, "He didn't talk much about dreams. He just worked for them." That quiet persistence laid the foundation for achievements that would soon capture global attention. The rise to championship status did not happen overnight. There were long competitions, difficult opponents, and moments of doubt that rarely appeared in public stories. Yet victory after victory followed. Each title added not just recognition but responsibility. Young athletes began to look toward him not only as a champion, but as proof that discipline could change a life. When Hollywood eventually opened its doors, a new kind of legend began to form clapperboard. His screen presence felt different. He did not rely only on dramatic dialogue or flashy scenes. Instead, he brought authenticity, movements shaped by real training, expressions shaped by real experience. Audiences sensed this truth even if they could not fully explain it. Fans recall the first time they saw him step into action roles that blended courage with calm intensity. Theater crowds would erupt in applause during key moments. Yet behind the scenes, colleagues often spoke of humility. One director once remarked, "He was powerful on screen but gentle in conversation." That contrast became part of his lasting appeal. As years passed, his cultural presence grew in unexpected ways. Humor found him and he embraced it with surprising grace, relieved face. Jokes and playful myths about his strength spread across generations, turning him into a symbol that felt both heroic and human. Instead of resisting, he allowed laughter to become another bridge connecting him to fans. Still, his deeper message remained rooted in philosophy. Interviews often revealed thoughts about perseverance, faith, and responsibility. He spoke about success not as fame but as character. In one memorable moment he told a group of students, "Winning begins in the mind." The room reportedly fell silent, not out of fear but respect. Charitable work quietly became another important part of his life. Youth programs, motivational speaking events, and community outreach reflected a desire to give back. These efforts rarely made dramatic headlines. Yet for families who benefited, his involvement felt personal and lasting. Red Heart. When news of his passing finally spread widely, tributes appeared from athletes, actors, and everyday admirers. A young martial artist posted, "I never met him, but he taught me how to stand up again." Such reflections showed how influence can travel across time and distance without losing strength. Candlelight gatherings were organized in training halls and public spaces. Old film posters were placed beside belts and medals. Conversations moved between memories of thrilling fight scenes and quieter stories about kindness. The legend that once seemed larger than life now felt closer, more human. In the calm reflection that followed, many began to understand his legacy in a deeper way. Toughness was only one part of the story. Endurance, humility, and inspiration formed the true foundation. His journey from uncertainty to global recognition reminded people that greatness often begins with simple determination. As evening shadows lengthened on the day of remembrance, one thought seemed to echo across voices and messages. Strength is not only measured in victories but in the courage to continue. Through films, teachings, and the countless lives he touched, Chuck Norris leaves behind a presence that time will not easily fade. Somewhere, in a quiet training room or a late-night television rerun, his influence still moves like a steady heartbeat. And as generations continue to discover his story, a gentle question remains: what new forms of courage might his legacy inspire next? The confirmation came in measured tones, delivered through official statements and quiet newsroom conversations. Robert S. Mueller III had passed away, leaving behind a life closely tied to duty and public trust. For many who followed his work, the moment felt both solemn and reflective. How does one measure the impact of a man who rarely sought the spotlight, yet often stood at the center of history? In the early hours after the news spread, government buildings across the country opened their doors under a different kind of silence. Staff members moved through familiar hallways with thoughtful expressions. His name had long represented steadiness during uncertain times. Now, memories of that steadiness began to surface quietly. Long before he became known to the public, his journey was shaped by service in uniform. As a young Marine officer, he experienced the realities of conflict in ways that would leave lasting impressions. Fellow veterans later described him as calm under pressure. One former comrade shared, "He carried responsibility like it was part of his character." Those early experiences helped define his understanding of leadership. He learned that courage was not always loud. Sometimes it meant standing firm when others hesitated. This lesson would guide him through decades of public service, influencing both his decisions and his reputation. When he later entered federal law enforcement, colleagues quickly noticed his disciplined approach. Meetings were often direct and focused. Files were studied carefully, sometimes late into the night. He believed that preparation was a quiet form of respect for the law, for victims, and for the truth itself. As his career advanced, so did the weight of the responsibilities he carried. He would eventually lead during periods of national uncertainty, when emotions ran high and scrutiny was intense. Yet those who worked beside him remembered composure rather than conflict. A senior investigator once said, "He never rushed judgment. He listened first." Public appearances were rarely dramatic. His voice remained steady, his words measured. Observers often noted how he seemed to create calm even in tense moments. That presence became a symbol for many citizens who hoped institutions could remain strong during challenging times. There were also quieter dimensions to his life that rarely reached headlines. Friends spoke about simple routines: early morning walks, time spent reading history, conversations with family that grounded him. These private moments revealed a man who balanced heavy duties with thoughtful reflection. One longtime associate later reflected, integrity was not something he performed. It was something he practiced daily. Such remarks began to circulate widely as tributes grew. Messages of respect came from political leaders, legal experts, and ordinary citizens who felt connected to his example. During candlelight gatherings held outside federal buildings, people shared stories not only about investigations, but about inspiration. Some remembered watching his testimony and feeling reassured by his calm focus. Others recalled studying his career in classrooms, seeing in it a model of professionalism. His leadership style also left a lasting influence on younger generations of public servants. Mentorship, patience, and clear expectations became hallmarks of his approach. Those who trained under him often described a sense of quiet encouragement rather than pressure. This environment helped shape careers that would continue long after his own. In later years, as he stepped back from public roles, he spoke less frequently but with continued purpose. Interviews revealed reflections on accountability and responsibility. He often emphasized that justice was not an abstract idea, but a daily commitment made by individuals. That message resonated in an era searching for stability. When the confirmation of his passing reached international audiences, responses were thoughtful and respectful. Legal scholars wrote essays about his influence. Veterans groups issued statements honoring both his military valor and his civic dedication. A former student simply posted, "He showed us what duty looks like." As evening settled on the day of remembrance, a calm understanding began to form. His legacy was not defined by a single moment or decision. Instead, it was built through consistent effort, careful judgment, and unwavering belief in the institutions he served. Such qualities rarely attract applause, yet they shape history in lasting ways. Somewhere inside courtrooms, classrooms, and quiet offices where future decisions will be made, his example continues to echo. The story of Robert S. Mueller III now becomes part of a larger narrative about responsibility and trust. And as people reflect on the path he walked, one gentle question remains: who will carry forward the same steady sense of duty in the years ahead?